Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. And this one was sparked by something I saw on LinkedIn just the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was an article called Africa's Achilles Heel to Widespread AI Adoption, the Existing Digital Divide.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's by Willy Seyama.
Okay.
He's the founder and CEO of Initiate, which is a marketing productivity agency.
I see.
And he published this piece on November 1st, 2024.
Very recent.
Yeah. And something about it just really kind of like stuck with me, and I thought it'd be a good one to kind of unpack together.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a hot topic right now. AI is everywhere.
It is. It is.
And its digital divide is something that, we talk about a lot in developed countries, but I think, what Sinama is talking about here is the impact on, on Africa, particularly for younger generations, is really interesting.
Yeah, and I think that was what really kind of drew me to this article, was that connection between AI and then the digital divide, and specifically in Africa. So, to kind of set the stage, Siyama's central point is that this existing digital divide could actually hinder widespread AI adoption across Africa.
Right.
And he ties this in with what's going on in South Africa right now, where the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies is really pushing to increase internet access.
Yeah, it makes sense because, the internet is kind of the foundation for everything in this digital world we live in.
Right.
And if you don't have access to the internet, you can't participate in any of this stuff, whether it's, being a developer or a user or even just an informed citizen.
Right. And to kind of illustrate his point, he brings in some data from the Global Digital Insights report that came out in October 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically shows that internet adoption rates in Africa are significantly lower than other continents.
Yeah, what are we looking at percentage-wise?
So Eastern Africa is sitting at just 27% internet adoption.
Wow.
Middle Africa, 32%, and Western Africa, 43%.
It's hard to imagine trying to even learn about AI, let alone, work with it or utilize it with that kind of limited access.
Yeah, and then you compare that to North America, which is at 97% internet adoption, or Northern Europe, which is at 98%.
Yeah, that's a huge gap.
That's a massive difference.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so it's not just about the numbers themselves, but it's about who's being left behind.
Yeah. Exactly. And, to kind of dive deeper into this, Siyama focuses specifically on the top 5 African economies.
Okay.
So we're talking South Africa, Egypt, Algeria, Nigeria, and Ethiopia.
And those are key players, right?
Absolutely. Together they contribute more than half of the continent's GDP. So
Yeah.
they're really driving a lot of the economic activity.
And there's this great graph in the article that shows the average internet adoption rate for those 5 countries is about 56.94%.
Okay.
So even within this group of top economies, they're still below the global average.
Right.
And what's interesting is if you look at the graph, you can see South Africa, Algeria, and Egypt are kind of clustered together with rates in the 70s.
Okay.
But then there's a noticeable drop-off with Nigeria and Ethiopia trailing behind. And there's another graph that really drives this point home. It breaks down each country and shows the split between those with internet and those without.
Okay.
And you can see that the biggest chunks of that, without internet pies, so to speak, belong to Ethiopia and Nigeria.
Wow. And those are 2 of the largest populations on the continent, aren't they?
They are. And they're also 2 of the fastest growing populations.
So this is a problem that's only going to get worse if nothing changes.
Right. And that leads to what I found to be the most fascinating part of this article, which is this connection that Siyama draws between median age and internet access.
Oh, that is interesting. How does he make that connection?
So he includes this scatter graph, and it shows internet penetration on one axis and the median age of the population on the other axis.
Okay.
And when you look at the graph, it reveals a pretty clear trend.
Mm-hmm.
The younger the population, the lower the internet adoption rate.
That's thought-provoking. I wonder why that is.
Well, he gives some pretty stark examples to illustrate this. So, for instance, Niger, with a median age of just 15.2 years, has an internet adoption rate of only 16.9%.
Wow. That's incredibly young.
It is. And then you have the Central African Republic with a median age of 20.4, and they have just 10.6% access.
So basically, the younger generation in a lot of these countries is being left behind when it comes to internet access.
Exactly. And at the other end of the spectrum, you have countries like Mauritius with a median age of 39.6 and an internet adoption rate of 75.5%. Or Seychelles, where the median age is 38.7 and 86.7% of people have internet access.
So there's a clear correlation there.
There is. And it really kind of highlights the fact that the youngest populations in Africa are facing the biggest barriers when it comes to getting connected. And that has huge implications for their future.
Yeah, especially when you consider that Africa has the youngest population in the world.
Exactly. 70% of the population is under the age of 30.
That's incredible.
It is. And they're the ones who are going to be most affected by AI, both positively and potentially negatively?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, we're talking about the generation with the most potential to benefit from AI, but also the one with the least access to the tools and resources they need to participate.
And that feels like a recipe for widening the gap, not closing it.
Exactly. And that's really what Seyama is getting at in his conclusion. He believes this digital divide is only going to worsen with the rise of AI, making it even harder for those already left behind to catch up.
Yeah, he even compares it to something that Eric Schmidt said about AI being a rich country's game.
Yeah. It's that idea that the benefits of AI might end up being concentrated among those who already have the resources and access.
Yeah. Right. And that's a really sobering thought, because without some kind of intervention, it could create a situation where, AI exacerbates existing inequalities rather than helping to level the playing field.
Which is why I think initiatives like Minister Malatsi's in South Africa are so important.
Right.
His focus on increasing internet access by doing things like making smartphones more affordable is a step in the right direction.
But is that enough? I mean, making smartphones more affordable is one thing.
Right.
But what about the cost of data plans? What about areas where there's just no infrastructure in place at all?
Yeah, you're right. It's a multifaceted problem that needs a multifaceted solution.
It does. And it's not just on governments to solve this either.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we need to be thinking about the role of the private sector and NGOs and even individuals.
Yeah, everyone has a part to play.
So where do we even begin? I mean, what are some concrete steps that can be taken to make sure that Africa's young generation isn't left behind in this AI revolution?
Well, one area that often gets overlooked is education. We need to start early, integrating digital literacy and computational thinking into school curricula from a young age.
Yeah, so it's not just about giving people access to the internet, but it's about giving them the ability to actually understand and utilize it effectively.
Exactly. It's like a digital literacy movement.
Right.
And that education can't stop at the school level either. We need to invest in upskilling and reskilling programs for adults, enabling them to adapt to this changing job market and seize new opportunities that might emerge in the AI sector.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, of course, there's the whole issue of infrastructure.
Yeah, for sure.
We need to be talking about expanding internet coverage, improving connection speeds, and making devices more affordable.
Right, absolutely. Infrastructure is the backbone of any digital economy.
Right.
And, when it comes to Africa, there's a massive opportunity for innovation in this space.
Oh, totally. I was reading about some initiatives that are using solar-powered internet kiosks in rural areas.
Oh, cool.
Or leveraging mobile technology to reach underserved communities.
Yeah.
It seems like there's potential to actually kind of leapfrog traditional infrastructure models in some cases.
Yeah, there really is. And we also need to think about the role of language.
Okay.
Right now, most AI development is concentrated in English and a handful of other dominant languages.
Right.
If we want to unlock the full potential of AI in Africa, we need to invest in developing AI models and applications in local languages.
It's about inclusivity, right? Making sure that everyone has the opportunity to participate and contribute to and benefit from this technological revolution.
Precisely. And that inclusivity needs to extend to the development of AI itself.
Oh, interesting.
We need to make sure that diverse perspectives and voices are represented in the teams designing and building these technologies.
Right. Otherwise, we risk perpetuating existing biases and inequalities.
Exactly. And that brings us right back to the importance of education and skills development. We need to empower young people in Africa not just to use AI, but to shape it, to become the innovators, the entrepreneurs, the leaders who will drive the responsible and ethical development of AI on the continent.
It's about turning that challenge, that digital divide, into an opportunity.
Yeah.
An opportunity for Africa to leapfrog into a future where AI is a force for good, a force for progress, and a force for inclusion.
And imagine a future where Africa's young generation isn't just a consumer of AI,
Right.
but a creator, a driver, a leader in shaping the AI landscape for the better. That's the potential we're talking about.
It's an inspiring vision, but it also feels like a massive undertaking.
It is.
Where do we even begin to make this a reality?
Well, a good first step is supporting the organizations and initiatives that are already doing incredible work in this space.
Okay.
There are countless NGOs, social enterprises, and community-led projects across Africa that are focused on digital inclusion and AI education.
Yeah, those are the folks with boots on the ground, right?
They're the ones who really understand the specific needs and challenges of their communities.
So we need to amplify those voices, support their efforts, and collaborate to build a more equitable future.
Exactly. It's not about reinventing the wheel, but empowering those who are already pushing for progress.
Right. And it's not just about throwing money at the problem either.
No, it's about investing strategically, building genuine partnerships, and most importantly, listening to the needs of local communities.
Because solutions that are designed, in a boardroom thousands of miles away rarely have the same impact as those that are built from the ground up.
Exactly.
It's about empowering people, not just providing them with technology.
Right.
Giving them the tools, the skills, and the agency to shape their own digital futures.
Precisely. And that empowerment starts with access to information, which brings us full circle back to the digital divide. And, Seyama ends his article with this really powerful statement. He says, the writing is on the wall for the rest of the continent.
What do you think he means by that? It feels like a call to action, an urgency to address this issue now.
I think that's exactly what it is. He's saying that, the digital divide is a real and present threat to Africa's future. And it's time for leaders, policymakers, and everyday citizens to take action.
So it's a call to recognize the urgency, to prioritize investments in digital infrastructure, education, and skills development.
Yeah.
And to approach it with a sense of innovation and collaboration.
Absolutely. And with a deep commitment to inclusivity.
Right, making sure that everyone benefits from the advancements we make.
Exactly.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like we've just scratched the surface of a really complex issue.
We have. It's a huge topic.
But one thing's for sure, we can't afford to ignore it.
The stakes are too high.
And to our listener, we leave you with this question. What role can you play in bridging this gap? How can you contribute to empowering Africa's youth to participate in this AI revolution?
Maybe you can support an organization working in this space, or educate yourself further on the issue, or even just start a conversation in your own community.
Right.
Every action, no matter how small, can contribute to positive change.
Because ultimately the future of AI in Africa, and indeed the future of the continent itself, depends on the choices we make today.
Yeah.
Let's choose to build a future that is inclusive, equitable, and empowering for everyone.
That's a future worth fighting for.
Absolutely. Okay, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.